Well, they say the polls aren't always right. It has been similar for the bookies in some recent elections as well. The pre-election campaign is in full swing though. So to have another angle of politics, we're having a look at the markets for this year's election, in particular how they've been changing in a few of the crucial seats. For a look at these numbers, Gerard Middleton from TAB joins me. Thanks for your time. I'll just start and end by saying, of course, if you're having a dabble at politics, do gamble responsibly, only bet assuming you're going to lose, because as I know in this chair, it's a mug's game, Gerard. Let's take us through the headline results first of all. What's been interesting, if you look at the polls last time around, and they were wrong, and so was the money, is how long it's taken for Labor to really begin to shorten, but it has begun.
Exactly right, Tom. Well, you go back to election eve 3 years ago, and Labor was $1.15 favourite, and the coalition were $5.50. Fair to say the bookies got that one completely wrong. But now the coalition is heading into this election are at its longest price, out to $3.10 now. And really, since the Newspoll, they've just continued to drift from earlier in the week. Labor in a winning position, $1.37. Go back almost 12 months, and the coalition was $1.35 favourites. The market flipped in November, and so there you see the prices now. And naturally, the money's been coming for Labor. Although, with the coalition at that price, some of their supporters are happy to have, and particularly the bigger punters. We took a bet in the tens of thousands earlier this week on the coalition at $3 after the Newspoll came out.
Yeah, there you go. So that's when people thought, hang on, this might be real. So let's look at a couple of batches of seats. The first, these you would call once upon a time pretty safe coalition seats. Dawson and Warringah, two very different stories here.
Well, you look at Dawson, I think it's indicative of the coalition's strength in Queensland, where you have George Christensen, of course, retiring, but even this week they've firmed in that seat, $1.22 into a very short $1.10, and Labor's out to $6.50. The issue for Labor in Queensland, they are not favourite in any coalition-held seats, and that wasn't the case 3 years ago. Even Peter Dutton's seat of Dixon Labor were favourites in, but we saw the coalition very strong in Queensland. Having a look at Warringah and Zali Steggall, in the last couple of weeks with the issues with the coalition pre-selection, the punters just absolutely weighing in there. 85% of the hold is for Zali Steggall. She's been $1.50 into $1.22 in the last fortnight, with the coalition going from $2.50 all the way out to $3.50 now.
The fact that the coalition candidate there is just a faceless man says it all about why that contest is that way. Let's head to WA. A couple of seats here. The coalition is in trouble with a couple of retiring members.
Exactly right. And what I said about Queensland earlier is not the case in Western Australia, where you do have coalition-held seats where Labor's a firm favourite. One of those being Pearce, with Christian Porter, of course, retiring. And since we opened the market back in December, the coalition were $2. They've just continued to drift out to $2.65 here, whereas the money's been for Labor, $1.75 into $1.45. And then you look at Swan again, coalition MP retiring, Steve Irons, and held with a 3.2% margin, the government's most marginal WA electorate. And this was very tight in December. Labor was $1.80. They've just continued to trim up into $1.35, with the coalition going out to $3. And you just saw the Prime Minister Scott Morrison in Chisholm, which they hold by 0.5%, and Labor's very firm favourites there, $1.35 with the coalition at $3, Tom.
The trend, not their friend. Gerard Middleton from TAB, thank you. As I said, gamble responsibly. From my seat and trying to predict these things, don't assume you'll see your cash again. Gerard, thank you.
Thanks very much, Tom.